Here's how to make the most stunning, beautiful, and delicious iced matcha latte you will ever make. Hi guys, it's Ashley, and I am first and foremost a matcha lover. I'm a little bit of a matcha connoisseur, you might say, and I have my own matcha business, Nami Matcha. I'm gonna get into every single thing that you need. First thing being a great matcha. There are multiple grades of matcha, and this is why sometimes if you go to a cafe, you have a matcha that literally tastes like fish, tastes like seaweed, tastes gross and bitter, and you're like, what did they literally just serve me? You probably just got served culinary grade matcha, aka matcha that's meant for baking and not for matcha lattes. There's also ceremonial grade matcha. Okay, ceremonial matcha, let's have a chat about it. The term ceremonial is extremely helpful when it comes to buying a matcha. You want to look for a ceremonial grade matcha, and that definitely helps you really like differentiate what type of matcha you want to buy. However, within ceremonial, there are different grades within the ceremonial grade. Ceremonial is really just referring to the fact that the leaves have been shaded, they are of a higher caliber, and there are also other, maybe better indicating factors of the quality of the matcha other than just the ceremonial label. Things to look for would be that the matcha is first harvest, aka it is the first flush of leaves from the season that are used. And then a lot of the times more reputable matcha brands will also share the cultivar of the matcha or the origin of the matcha, Kagoshima, Shizuoka, Fukuoka, like there's obviously all the different regions of Japan. My God, I'm literally going on a spiel. I am talking for too long about this. That's my 2 cents. Now, ceremonial matcha compared to culinary grade matcha is insanely different. Here's a lower quality matcha versus my Nami ceremonial matcha. I will also say this is a very high quality ceremonial, so it blends incredibly smooth and silky under the fingers, and there is quite a difference, especially in color on this paper right now. Okay. Then it comes to the other accessories that you'll need. And luckily, I have a box filled with everything specifically that you could imagine in the most beautiful color of butter yellow. This is every single item that you need to make the perfect matcha latte. The matcha itself. We also have a scoop, a sieve, a whisk, this. The incredible thing about whisk is that it's made out of a singular piece of bamboo, which is freaking amazing. You also have the whisk holder so that the whisk dries in the perfect whisk form. And of course, a matcha bowl, aka a chawan. This one has a spout for easy pouring. It's just so freaking cute. Now you might think the first step of making matcha is putting the matcha in the bowl. No, we gotta actually start a little bit before that, and that means we're starting with the whisk. Now, for the longevity of your whisk, you actually want to bloom it, aka you wanna soak it in hot water for at least 30 seconds minimum before you use it, as to not break the bristles of your whisk, which are very delicate and made of little tiny pieces of bamboo. I actually like to put it in my chawan so that I don't create too many dirty dishes, and I just heated up some hot water and I'm gonna pour it right over the whisk. I let it just sit in there. Okay, I just dumped out the water from my bowl. I'm gonna set the whisk aside for a second, and it's time to sift in some matcha. It's always a great idea to sift your matcha prior to whisking it to get out any little chunks that might be there. So I put the sieve on top of the chawan like this, open up your matcha, place that right into my sieve, and then I use my bamboo scoop just to sort of get it through the sieve. There we go. Next up, it's time for water. The key with matcha is to use water that is hot but not boiling. You do not want your water to be boiling, or else when it hits the matcha, it's gonna like be cooking it, it's gonna make it bitter, and that is obviously not what you want. So anywhere between 140 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit is the key, aka 40 to 60 degrees Celsius. Is that even correct? Do I even know how to use Celsius? And so if you have one of those fancy like water kettle heaters that can heat it to an exact temperature, you can totally use that. For me, I I am not that fancy, so I'm gonna show you how I typically make it anyways. Here I just have some cold water and I'm going to pour that right into the matcha, just a little bit. And then on top of it, I'm gonna take some warm water. This isn't boiling right now, obviously, but it is still pretty hot, but I don't want it to be too hot, so kind of mix it with some cold water, and I just pour a little bit of that in as well. If you use warm water, it does make your matcha froth much better than if you were to use cold water or room temperature water. However, it is okay to use room temperature or cold water. It's not going to ruin your matcha. There might be very subtle flavor differences. If you're in a bind and you want to use room temperature water, or maybe you're just a little lazy, it's not going to be the end of the world and your matcha is still going to taste good. So just want to put that out there. Okay, pause. I want to bring something up. Cold whisking matcha. Basically, you put the matcha into the chawan, pour milk right over it, and then bam, you just whisk it and you're done. And I actually think that this is really fun and exciting for us lazy girls. Now, I have heard that this potentially isn't the best for your whisk. So if you do this, make sure that you are really gentle with your whisk and also that you wash it off really well. Anyways, let's get back into the full matcha routine. So now for whisking, you actually don't want to whisk it in a circular motion like this. You can a little bit just to kind of get everything off the edges, but when you're whisking the main contents of your matcha, you want to whisk back and forth in a zigzag motion or a W motion. And this is how you get the best froth possible on your matcha. I whisk mine for probably around 30 seconds, I want to say. The goal is to have little tiny bubbles, so I kind of slow up my whisking literally until it comes to a complete stop. Oh, what a gorgeous foam. And now if I was to drink this with just water, which I love to do, you can just add more water into the matcha at this point and then give it another stir. Right now we have a more potent matcha that I'm gonna pour over milk. It's my favorite way to enjoy it is as a matcha latte. And after you wash your whisk, you want to place it back on your whisk holder so that everything fans out and it forms back into place. And now this is the fun part. Okay, for an iced matcha latte, of course, we cannot forget the ice. My favorite way recently is actually to mix the milk in the chawan itself. It just looks so much better to me to pour a full, like literally looks like I'm pouring a pot full of gold of a matcha latte on. I'm just gonna take my oat milk right here, pour in a little bit of oat milk in there, give it a mix with a spoon. And also at this point, if you did want to add sweetener, may I recommend maple syrup. Pour that in, mix it in a little bit. I'm just gonna have mine plain for now because that is how I like to enjoy it most of the time. And I'm gonna pour it right over the ice. By the way, if you're using a chawan, make sure that you pour it slowly. If you pour it too fast, the spout can be so small that it still like flies over the side. So make sure you pour slowly if you add extra milk, just because there is a lot of liquid. Are you seeing this, guys? The most glorious and perfect matcha latte that there is to exist in the world. Made easy peasy. Wow. Simply divine. This is my favorite beverage in the entire world. My favorite thing in the entire planet. My life actually revolves around this because of how good it tastes. A few notes that I actually want to make before I fully end the video. When you're making a latte, some of the flavor does depend on the milk. Especially with a really high quality matcha, the flavor notes can be so delicate that if you use a strong milk flavor, it can sometimes overcome the flavor of the matcha, which you do not want. So I recommend using a very neutral milk. I always feel like oat milk is great. I really like the Trader Joe's soy milk. The only one I really maybe don't recommend is almond milk. Sorry to my almond milk lovers, I just don't feel like it's creamy and rich enough if you're going for a latte. You know what I'm saying? There's a chance you might not like a matcha latte just because of the milk that is being used. So another thing, if I have any matcha nerds here that want to know more about Nami matcha specifically, this gorgeous matcha right here is First Harvest Matcha. It is from Kagoshima, Japan. It's single origin and it is the Okumodori cultivar, aka it's a late maturing cultivar. Okumodori means deep green or late green, aka the green tea leaves are picked pretty much like a week later than usual, so they have a really truly deep vibrant green color. And for the flavor notes, when you take your first sip, it has like a steamed buttered greens flavor that kind of transforms into a more nutty flavor as you drink it. And and I really love like a more aromatic, nutty, sometimes floral flavor matcha, and I feel like that is what I have right here. For me, this is the perfect matcha for my daily matcha ritual. It's a very refreshing matcha. I think it's a great matcha for anyone that is getting into matcha for the first time as well. I am so grateful to freaking be here and to be able to share my passion for matcha with you all. I love you all so freaking much. And also don't forget to follow Nami on Instagram at Nami Matcha. I'll see you guys next time.